My name is Fred Cook, and I drive school bus.
My name is Leanne Murchie, and I'm a school bus driver for TCAPS. It's been a very wonderful experience.
When I first hired in, one of the previous bus drivers told me that this particular job, driving school bus, is the best job on earth. So I immediately took to it, and I have to agree that this is one of the best jobs that anyone can do.
What prompted me in the very beginning, I have a college degree, and she said, "You're in the safest vehicle in the world on the road." So I thought, well, I'm gonna try. Because I would be on the same time schedule as my own children. And when they were off, I was off. When holidays, I was there. So it was the best of both worlds. TCAPS offers jobs elsewhere within the system.
Between routes, I used to, for 12, 13 years, I did lunch duty over at East Middle School, and now I paint.
They're real good about finding people the hours that they need during the course of the day to make the job great. We have Mesa Insurance. The whole district has it. It's awesome. It's the best health insurance. We offer a 401k. There's a sign-on bonus. It's a win-win situation.
The most important thing, I think, coming to work at TCAPS is you understand that you are part of a team. It's a part of a collective. It's not just bus drivers and then versus teachers. It's not that. We all are in this thing called education together.
If a person likes kids, generally likes kids, this is a perfect job.
So I'm talking to kids all day, and that experience is really heartwarming, and I continue to understand what it means to be a part of the community.
You are an educator. You have a chance to touch children's lives every day. And don't think that you don't. You are such an important part of the wheel of education.
Welcome to your audience and thanks you for attending. Viewers may watch Board of Education meetings and Board Committee meetings live on TV 190 or online at tcaps.net/board. Recorded meetings may be viewed on demand at the same address. Public comment. There is no one for public comment.
Public comment.
And then so we can move on to procedural items. We had the draft meeting minutes portion of the agenda. Are there any changes to the draft minute meeting? Or draft minutes.
Look good to me.
All right, no changes. The minutes remain as posted. And then moving on to board policy review, deferring to Connie Taylor. Oh, there you go.
So we will.
I didn't look up yet.
Here. Connie is at the Michigan Negotiators Association. It's interview academy. Negotiations Academy, thank you. And so I'll let Erica, you okay to be able to talk about these?
Talk about the policies?
Yeah, or do you
I
need me
think
to do that?
She told me that you had.
Okay,
to talk
and I
about
can do that,
but
that's
I
fine.
certainly can. Yeah.
That's, if you would like, you can, but,
Is it right there?
I'm fine doing it, so.
Okay.
Okay, so for the Fair Labor Standards Act, the first one, we have, more than a decade ago, Congress passed a law amending Section 7 of the Fair Labor Standards Act, mandating that eligible employees be provided reasonable breaks in private facilities to express breast milk during the first year after the birth of a child. This provision applies primarily to hourly staff members who are non-exempt from overtime and other FLSA provisions such as bus drivers, aides, custodians, and secretaries. The district may choose to attempt to provide a smaller benefit to exempt employees such as teachers and administrators if the employee can be accommodated without materially disrupting school operations or employee duties, but is not required by FLSA. The policy revision adds language that summarizes the board's education's obligation to provide reasonable breaks in private facilities for FLSA eligible employees. So, questions? I don't know that I can totally clarify, but we can talk through them.
Are you gonna get? There's a couple of typos in there.
Yeah, there are a couple. I'll let you cover those.
Okay.
Just my biggest one is about the under nursing mothers. And the whole idea of the break time to express milk. In the fourth paragraph there, an employee shall be enabled to, should that be able to, would that read easier? And also, the additional time required shall be unpaid. So if a break runs longer than expected, we're gonna dock her pay?
Well, it's already unpaid. I think what it's getting at is you don't have to adjust the schedule of the day.
Okay,
That's
so
where it gets.
it seems,
You gotta remember policy and then sometimes practice. Okay, so,
Okay.
policy, it has that for contract language, all those kind of things, but generally, we collectively, are, I think, very, open if somebody, needs to spend more time, we're not going to, have issue from that standpoint unless it becomes becomes 40, 50 minutes, in that element. It would be just like any other, way that we treat employees for culture and climate from that standpoint. So what I would tell you is, if we see this and we are seeing people complaining and stuff to the board obviously, has conversations with the superintendent on the way we utilize the practice of policy versus, what's language legally and contractually there.
gotcha.
I had same question, I guess, as you, but
That's what I
that-
needed
the
to
part
hear
that
because
you
it seemed
add-
punitive.
I get it.
Okay.
and
And
that,
we're certainly wanting to encourage,
If you just think of the
Students
opposite
in
though,
our
where if
school
it is, you just have to think of if it is abused. We have to have something to be able to rely on from that standpoint.
gotcha.
Is there any way of stating what that abuse looks like, rather than
No.
guessing it?
That is, the purview of the superintendent, from that standpoint. If an employee requests accommodations, we look at that from that.
and my issue was more of the unpaid in that portion is just to say if it goes long, then you don't have to reschedule the day, which makes more sense than to the first point, which is the unpaid in general.
Yeah, yes. It's kind of confusing.
So is there
On one
a
of
way we
those
wanna
notes,
kind of reword it?
unpaid reasonable break time in the first, under the reasonable break time for nursing mothers, has a typo just where it's got a,
Where's that at again, Scott?
the second line, unpaid reasonable break time.
It's a
is,
bracket.
Oh, there's a
Bracket.
bracket there, yeah. You got that, Erica?
Yep.
Okay. And then what are your thoughts? It sounds like you maybe want a couple word tweaks here.
The last paragraph, an employee shall be able to express milk
Instead of enabled.
instead of enabled.
Yeah.
allowed. I don't know, yeah, I guess
Granted
able.
time.
Abled is fine. We don't need to do semantics there.
So that's fine. I had the same question as if we needed to change the first paragraph because I think we would expect that it would be paid reasonable break time at the district's discretion, but I think
What I always remind the board, if you see an issue later on, you can always go change it.
yep.
Right.
Yep.
There is one additional typo in 1, 2, 3. The largest on the first page, the largest green section, second line. If
Where it says IG?
Yep.
Okay.
easy ones.
Okay.
That's,
Okay, other than that?
yep.
Okay, let's go to the school visitors next then. In 2021, amendments to the Sex Offender Registry Act, SORA, were enacted. Changes to the policy must be enacted to remain compliant with Michigan law. The changes pertinent to the schools is as follows. The elimination of school exclusion zones. Under the new law, there is no longer a crime for registrants to live, work, or loiter within 1,000 feet of a school. Parole, probation, and similar restrictions can still apply. Registrants are now allowed under state law to go to their children's events at school, although schools can make their own policies. The recommended policy revision sets the parameters whereby a sex offender can attend their children's events. So this is one that changed that I can tell you, I've been through it, in my former superintendency. We had a very clear rules under the registered sex offender list that we could ban a sex offender from, any and all events. This law, so that the law was changed on the sex offender registry based on, I want to say, a court ruling that said that there was some levels of unconstitutional acts there. And so that was changed, and so reflecting that, you cannot deny a parent from accessing children's educational opportunities. So this is essentially, I did have Connie put in there, when we did get the policy, it didn't expressly say that the law actually had changed. And so I had her add in the green section, pursuant to the 2021 amendments to the Michigan Sex Offender Registry Act, SORA, I had that added. So that was not in there from Neola, and I thought it's very important for any parents that go, why are you changing this? What are you thinking? That under the law that this change is requiring us to do this. So I wanted to make sure to highlight that section for you.
What will be our policy, the last sentence there? Conditions may include but are not limited to, because I know we've had parents escorted before.
And generally, that is the case, and that will be updated in administrative guidelines that we do have, if that's the case, that a staff member will escort person there and back in that same way. So,
And does the law say, because previously it was to parents and guardians, and now it's to individuals, which is a much broader definition.
the law has been a little bit not clear, but I can tell you that everything we've seen is that you just can't base opportunity to anybody coming with a family or whatever based on the sex offender registry.
So it's pretty much anyone.
So this is the concert that grandma or grandpa want to come to, or uncle or aunt that is been on that list, that you can't deny based on simply being on that sex offender registry.
Okay. And then
As what I said, you can put other conditions around supervision, where they are at, all those kind of things, but
it
as
does
far
say
as
may, it's a may, not a shall.
yeah.
For that extended family member, how would we even know?
Sometimes it's reported. I'll tell you that you have somebody that knows somebody that's on the website, and the picture's there. And I've had this a million times that I get a phone call, hey, so-and-so's here at the concert, and I saw their picture on the sex offender registry last week, So there was a point in Alpena when this was in effect where I would actually have to go and ask them to leave and, and enforce it from that standpoint, because that was where our board policy sat. Now, like I said, this definitely changed from that standpoint, You know, you used to, you know, could say that parent-teacher conferences, you know, were outside of the school day and in a separate place, all those kind of things. Now with this change, it has definitely required, as you can see, Neola to update the policy based on it, and our practice, you know, has to. Here, since I've been here, I can tell you, I think it's been following that idea of, like you're saying, allowed but escorted, those things. I think our practice has been updated. I think this is a little while coming, you know, to me, this update. But in practice, I don't think this really changes a lot for us in practice as much as it does updating the policy to our practice. But again, I know some people will not be happy that, you know, they're saying, why are you letting, you know, somebody on the sex offender registry in a building? But the law really requires us to do that, but we can put those parameters on it, and we are.
If you have a student who's participating, knows that their family members has this issue, and the student does not want them there, what's our stance on that? Is that, we really don't have any recourse because the law says they could be there.
Unless there's something else that says that, such as, you know, something with a court order,
Right.
you know, PPO, something like that, that would enforce that from that standpoint. Any other questions on that one? Okay.
I'm sure it'll get cleared up anyway when the red line goes up at the very last.
Where's the typo at it?
Typo, page 1, 2, like third little paragraph up is her, and then there, it's just.
It's
spacing.
together.
Yeah, just this.
Yeah.
So that the red goes away. The red is
Okay.
so right, I think it's like a red line, but
Yeah.
and I'm sure in the green, in a similar, that I'm sure will get corrected on the very last line, the year. But all right, any other questions?
I do want to just state, like, under SORA, there are certain individuals that are never going to be allowed on school property. Most of that applies to, like, the what we would call the less offensive sex offenders. So just FYI, if that makes any more sense.
Then we have to place. This one we were placing on consent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And did we place the first one, or was it
I'm consent.
on
I
consent?
think that goes to consent too.
I figured as much. I just didn't know if we said it. So, all right. No other questions. Move on to memorials.
Okay, so this policy is being recommended to ensure that memorial tributes are handled consistently across the district and to ensure that we have the ability and resources to appropriately maintain memorials approved by the district. This policy was introduced previously, but several members asked for additional discussion on some of the provisions. The subcommittee of the board met on January 9th, 2023, and recommended the following revisions. A building may elect to include a memorial page in the yearbook subject to approval of the family. AG 7251 was drafted to include a provision requiring written approval from the following prior to a tribute being included on the memorial page. For temporary memorials, we extend the period that it would be placed from no more than 5 days of school to more than 20 school days. And for existing memorials, we added a provision to move or remove a memorial in the event that it becomes unsafe or exceeds its life expectancy. And these are the things where sometimes we get a bench that's outside and it breaks, it gets so weathered and rotted out at that point, some of those kind of things. You know, we don't want to be disrespectful, you know, but at the same point, we don't have the funds to, you know, rebuild or maintain or those kind of elements when those have been. So I think that this is a good, even further revision from what we originally had brought to the board committee.
The last sentence of the whole document, memorials will be permitted for students who were enrolled in a district program at the time of the student's death.
So it's not so they graduated and 4 years later? That's what it's meaning.
Or move to a different school.
Gotcha, okay. And then on the first page under F, Students may, with the approval of the principal, wear or display discrete remembrances. That's gonna be hard to kind of,
It is, but I think that, we have some things that, there's a judgment call there. We've had this
Yeah.
conversation many times, right? And it's about recognizing them, but not having that be the focal point of on stage.
right,
And so there is there, but again, I think that we've trusted our administrators to be thoughtful on that element again. And if not, that's something that somebody's being told not, and I hear it, that's where, I step in and have a conversation. But I don't expect we'll have an issue, but there is a judgment call there, you're right.
okay.
And I'm not sure that we can get into the wording of covering every single policy thing that would be discrete or non-discrete.
Just in guideline C, there's some extra spacing that needs to be removed, but that's easy. Nothing on content. Any other questions? This is a new policy, so this will go to first reading.
That's correct.
Oh, yep. Okay,
Is it a new policy? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
and it is, yep, on the. All right, so that's the end of procedural. Well, it's actually then the draft meeting agenda for February.
Okay, so for the board meeting, we have our call to order, pledge of allegiance, the review and approval of agenda. We have our recognition for the TCAPS Music and Performing Arts program. So various elements there that we're trying to recognize. Don't know that we'll have everybody at that point, but hopefully we will. We have our public comment. First, under the agenda, superintendent's report for legislative and district highlights, our board committee reports. We have one key one under there, so you know that the finance committee has changed their time from 7:30 a.m. to 4:30. Am I right, Holly?
Somebody knew you would have
Knew
that
that was
face
coming.
coming.
Knew that was coming right there. Board Executive Committee, we are having, and we'll have a report out on the MASB Labor Relations Workshop.
Can we correct it on the agenda to have report out by Moo Moore instead of chairperson?
We do, yep, and we will have that. Our board office hours report out by Holly, it looks like, and then we will have, February will be Josie Ballinger. We will have our consent agenda. Under that, personal recommendations. Notice of the board committee meeting dates. We do have an August 3rd committee as well for board exec that was absent from the document, so we just want to make sure that gets updated. Our district course catalog, we do have some courses that were put through the curriculum committee. We have the board policies that we have, and again, it'll only be the first reading on the memorial policy. We have our bids and services. We did have the finance committee approve a playground equipment bid, a fiber project for many of our elementary schools for internet fiber, and then as well digital clock upgrades for Cherry Knoll and Long Lake. So you do know that we've decided to remove the Thurlby Field fencing at this time. The quotes and things we got, we just, we feel that it's very, very high at this point. We also want to make sure that, that we have different things on hand to be able to complete projects. We do have the STEM labs coming up, and so we're just being really frugal to make sure that we're able to do due diligence to the projects we have. Something we still want to do, but we're just holding off on that one for now. So we removed that from the agenda.
So you're saying just you're not doing the fencing?
That is correct.
So you're not removing the fencing?
That's what it sounded like you said.
We're removing the line that had the fencing
Right.
as a bid proposal.
Okay.
At some point, the fencing there, we will remove because it's for the softball field, but that has nothing to do with this agenda,
Okay, all right.
for clarity. We have the minutes of the organizational meeting in closed session of January 9th. We will have a school safety update. We will have board policy first reading, again, for the memorials I talked about. An amendment to the general fund budgets and special revenue funds which includes food service programs, student school activities fund, and community services. That was presented to the finance committee and agreed to move forward. Just to give you an idea right now, just the way that cash flow is and what we are seeing, we think we have about $1.5 million variance budgeted compared to actual expenses expected. And with that, theoretically, we do need an approval for fund balance to be able to ensure that we're meeting the budget on hand, even though we have it over. In the end game, all of it, we're projecting right now about a $16,000 to the plus side. But we need an authorization for fund balance in the event that the $1.5 million we're expecting of a cushion doesn't materialize. We budgeted that as actual spent in the original budget. We do that just to be conservative in all aspects. So understand when we're approving the budget, that's what it's going to reflect, is essentially that $1.5 million of fund balance, but yet with the variance we expect, we're still 16,000 to the plus without the fund balance reserves. Okay. And then MASB Board of Directors 2023 election ballot, we have that, and we do have a letter. Have we forwarded that on yet,
Nope, I
Megan?
haven't.
Yep,
Megan
so
has mine.
today, we just got it last night, we did get a letter from one of the candidates to share with the board. So we'll make sure to do that soon. Then we have our second public comment. We will have our closed session. We have a student petition and reinstatement, and this one has a little bit of timing issues. We're trying to have an ability to at least have an opportunity to consider the student getting back into school. There are some other elements that are happening. So because of that, we're not able to do the reinstatement hearing until 4:00 p.m. of the day of our board meeting. And so there's a chance this could get canceled if the reinstatement does not, group does not recommend that. But if they do, if we didn't do it this way, we'd have to wait a whole nother month to get them back into school. And so I know how the board feels, I think, pretty well. And so we're going ahead and moving forward with this concept, but just know that it could not happen depending on a couple of variables.
Yeah, I prefer to have it in there and take it out if it isn't.
Exactly.
Rather than the other way around.
Exactly. And then obviously afterwards, a student reinstatement, open a session consideration. Then we have board president closing remarks and adjournment.
On 9C discussion, is there, you don't have to answer this now, but at least Christine can be prepared for the question I asked then. Is there going to be any implication with the ending of the public health emergency? Is there any funding sources that come through that? Because that's now scheduled 10 May 11th.
Probably the only thing that I can think of that we've had is money from the health department there, but we're getting encouraging news that they are going to extend that for a year. But other than that,
I didn't know if that tied through it.
there's
or not.
nothing that I can think of that we've had, outside of the ESSER 123. That's the only thing I can think of that's kind of come from an outside agency that was related to that. But and I know Megan's been on conversation as a health advocate with the health department, and right now we are hearing good news of expecting those funding for the 2FT that we've had to hopefully continue on to next year, regardless of that ending of the public health emergency.
Yeah.
I'll double check that, Scott, but I don't.
And
know.
I said I will probably ask that in the full
Yeah,
meeting.
I'll
anyway,
let
so
Christine
I
know
figured
that, but
out.
like I said, right at the moment, that's the only thing I can think of, so.
Any other changes or comments on the agenda? All right. Then we'll move on to informational items, deferring to Erica.
Yeah, that we do have. So I think Connie gave an update at the last meeting that we had two teacher retirements so far. We still have 2 teacher retirements, but for a total of 4 total from the district. So we had one more non-certified since the last since last meeting come in. Additionally, too, we've ramped up recruiting efforts on bus drivers. We so far have hired 3 new bus drivers. One is a rehire who already has a CDL. The others are 2 new, so we'll have to go through the training. So just as a reminder, that's about a 5-week turnaround from being onboarded to being able to take a route. We're still running some recruiting efforts, including radio ads. We have billboards running. There's one currently on South Airport, and then soon that will be switching over to Munson Avenue on one of the electronic billboards over there, as well as some social media campaigns that Communications is helping us with. The last thing that I have as an update is we're going to be starting mission-based budgeting here soon, so we're working on preparations for that with the business office, and hopefully more to come on that here at the next meeting or 2.
All right. Any questions on HR? All right, then we'll move on to communications update. Ginger Smith.
Nothing to report this month. However, if anybody has any questions, I am available to answer.
All right. Any questions of Ginger? All right. Any other items? All right. Then the next board executive committee meeting is Thursday, March 2nd at 9 a.m. in this room and available online. With that, we can adjourn. Thanks.